This episode of Sick With It is brought to you by Pollack's Urban Vitamin Center. Are you ready to take charge of your health? Look no further than Pollack's Urban Vitamin Center, your trusted source for natural remedies and wellness solutions. Located at 5925 North Broad Street, Philadelphia, Pollack's provides natural support for heart health, joint and back pain relief, digestive wellness and weight management, and much, much more. Plus, they have a holistic health counselor and practitioner on staff to guide you on your journey to better health. Call them today at 215-549-4372 or stop by to start your journey to wellness. That's Pollack's Urban Vitamin Center, where your health is their priority. Pollack's Urban Vitamin Center, helping Philadelphia stay healthy naturally. Greetings. This is your host, Stephanie Renee. Welcome back to the Sick With It podcast. On this episode, I am joined by my co-host, holistic health practitioner Andre Capers, together in the same room live, along with our special guest, artist and producer Hezekiah Davis III, for a candid discussion on brain aneurysms. Many of us falsely believe that aneurysms and strokes are only the domain of our elders, but Hezekiah's case as a not-so-seasoned man is one for reflection and study among the younger members of our listening audience. We hope you will heed your body's warnings when it comes to doing too much, how you should truly commit to recovery, and what we can all do to keep our brains in great running order for the long haul. Here is that conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sick With It podcast. This is an episode that has been a long time in the making because it is something that we have experienced here in the Philadelphia community and wanted to take the time to talk to the gentlemen who have experienced this situation up close and personal. I'm talking about aneurysms, brain aneurysms. What does that mean? What can we do to understand warning signs? How do we begin to prevent it? And of course, get some holistic health expertise about how to conduct our lives so that we're not even dealing with this as an immediate possibility in how we are living and doing our time on this earth joyously and in good health. I'm your Vibe Mistress Stephanie Renee, joined as always by my co-host, holistic health practitioner Andre Capers.
Good afternoon.
And one of our special guests today is the human amplifier Hezekiah Davis III, producer, multi-hyphenate, we'll say, in our Philadelphia artistic community for sure. And Hez, you were the first person that we heard about who had experienced this. So why don't you take all of us to that moment where you began to understand that something wasn't quite right?
Okay. I first had I had a studio session. I ran a studio, so I'm gonna just make it brief. I ran a studio. I had Little Africa Studio. I completed the session. The session was kind of stressful. A woman that was in my studio, emotional. She was yelling about something, and then she left. Before I had the next session, I said I had an hour between, so I said I'm gonna lay down before the next session. Mm-hmm. I laid down for a little bit, and I felt my brain like moving. I felt my brain shaking. I felt like my brain was shaking. So, and I never felt nothing like it before. So I just laid down. I couldn't get back to sleep. I couldn't get to sleep. I called my lady, like, yo, something's wrong. Mm. I haven't felt nothing like this before. Like, this is kind of crazy. Yeah. So I hung up. She said she was on her way. I projectile vomited. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a sign of having an aneurysm. Mm-hmm. I projectile vomited, and by the time she got there, I was all laid out. She got me into the car, rushed me to the hospital, Penn Hospital. I was living in West Philly at the time, so it wasn't too far. So got to the hospital, they rushed me immediately through, and I think I woke up like a day later, a couple days later.
One of the things that I want to pause here immediately and say is that very similar to a stroke, right? The amount of time between when you first exhibit a serious symptom and getting to medical attention is critical.
Right.
We've learned that in so many cases. And so I wonder, you talked about going through a stressful day, and I'm sure there are people in our listening audience right now who are going to be like, well, I stay stressed. My life, is stressful. Can you pinpoint anything prior to that stressful day where it was a buildup?
I was doing too much. Like sometimes just because you can don't mean you should. You know what I'm saying? Because like anything I was at the time before that, I was doing workouts in the park with the kids. You remember that? I was doing workouts in the park with the kids. I was managing Beat Society. I was that's my I produced my event that I did for years. So I was doing Beat Society. I was doing Beat Society podcast. I was working with my band, Johnny Popcorn. I was working with my band. I was booking the shows. I was doing the artwork. I was doing the videos. I was doing everything for Beat Society also, the podcast, editing the podcast, everything. I ran my studio, promoting the podcast, songwriting for Bilal's album that just came out. That just finally came out, but this is before the pandemic, so I was recording Airtight, Adjust Brightness.
Yes.
I was recording that album. So I was doing all this at one time. All this and just burning the wick,
all both ends and in between.
Candle at both ends, man. And then it just caught up with me. Just because you can don't mean you should. You got to take time for yourself.
I want to pause there because Dre, I want to bring you in here. We're not going to separate this episode. There's so much that's integrated in what we're going to talk about today. And so before Hezekiah came in, Dre and I were talking about the fact that it's not just that you're doing a lot, but that in between the doing, we are not resting enough.
Right.
And how that can aggravate us. I just want you to weigh in now before we talk even more about the symptoms and managing all that other stuff. Let's talk about the rest.
The body repairs itself when we're resting, when we're asleep. That's what. When you go for surgery, what happens?
They knock you out.
Right? And when you wake up, it's like, oh, I feel better now, right? But the same thing, but the body does that naturally.
Yeah.
And that's why you always hear people say, oh, you got to get plenty of rest. Yeah, you got to get plenty of rest because that's when the body decides, all right, you know what? Now, let me start correcting this over here. Now that you're rested and relaxed, okay? We're not using as much energy all over the place, We're settled, relaxed. And now we can get things done is what the body says.
Yeah.
But also too, another thing that plays a part in that, which is something else that we talked about, was having time to rest and decompress.
Yes.
A lot of stress going on right now. A lot of things going on out in the world. Just life, right? So making the time to what I call decompress. Take an hour, 2 hours out of your day. I don't care what you do. Whatever it is that makes you happy or calms you down or relaxes you, you need to do that.
Yes.
You need to turn your phone off. You need to grab some tea like I just did before we got started.
Right.
Maybe some, not to diagnose, treat, cure, nor prevent disease, simply food for the soul, but some teas that could actually help with decompression and relaxation would be one of my favorites. It's called willow bark tea.
Okay.
Now, willow bark comes from the willow tree. The willow tree looks lazy, right? Now, the way it looks is what it does. So, willow bark is an excellent one. It's a good calmative to calm down. Also for things like pain relief.
Okay.
And if you need some relief somewhere,
now let me just
helps with that.
Ask you to pause there for a second because I think a lot of us, there is a lot of mainstream information we could say about some herbs and preventatives and that kind of thing. And what we hear most often is chamomile.
Chamomile, excellent.
But is there a specific difference between the effect that chamomile has versus the effect that willow bark has?
One is stronger than the other.
Okay.
Absolutely. So aspirin, ibuprofen comes from willow bark.
Okay.
Right? Now, chamomile is a little on the lighter side, but it is helpful. Now, if you see me, I'm the type of person where I could have 1 cup of willow bark, and that'll do the job. But I might need 2 cups of chamomile.
I got you.
To do the same as 1 cup of willow bark. So yeah, chamomile is excellent. Also, too, chamomile is great for the digestive system.
Okay.
It also is great as a anti-inflammatory as well. So it does help with inflammation.
Yeah. But see, that's what I mean. Like they say now that there are certain diseases that finally got breast cancer's PR.
Yes.
You know what I mean? These things have been affecting us forever.
Yes.
But breast cancer's PR team has been hyped for years, and so we're very keen on what that looks like, what that feels like, how that should be treated, where other things have not had as much hype, but they're still persistent in our community. So I think chamomile has the better PR team. Yes. Willow bark, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a little
come up.
Yeah, it definitely needs it was a lot of herbs like that. They need a little come up. But chamomile's one. Lavender is another. Believe it, I love lavender. Lavender is also great for, guess what? Melanin. That's a whole nother conversation. But it's also great for the pineal gland. Lavender is awesome. Also, too, it's a great calmative, and it's also another pain reliever. So anything pertaining to stress, those 3 are pretty much going to do it. Now, I will say the easiest out of the 3 would be the chamomile and the lavender. Obviously, those are some that we gravitate to. We're more familiar.
But letting people know that, you know, if you're going through a particularly stressful big deal, that you might need to go to the willow bark and take that in.
Yeah.
See, I appreciate that. We need to have more of these things that it triggers that memory receptor so that we go, oh, it's not always that thing that's easily available, but the thing that we need most, that we need to put into practice.
Right. Now I want to add to that. I'm glad you brought that up. That practice part, because application is everything. See, that's the biggest misconception about herbs that most of us have. Not to get off topic, but the thing is, all right, well, I put it in my system, so it should work. No, it's how you put it in there, right? I'll give you a prime example with the teas. Willow bark. Willow bark, you don't steep. Because it's a bark, you must boil it. You boil it on low for 20 minutes. You got to cook the medicinal properties out of that bark. Right?
That's important.
Is it because it's a harder substance?
Exactly.
Is it a grain?
No. It's a bark. Just like bark. It's a tree. It's a bark. It's a piece of wood, basically.
Right.
And you gotta basically boil it.
To get it out. Yeah.
To get it out. Now, anything loose, like the loose leaves or loose teas, you steep those.
Yes.
You put them in a little tea ball. You get that water
hot, and then
boil it, turn it off, pour the water in the cup, then drop the tea ball in there. If you have a tea ball, if that's what you're using, and you steep it for 3 to 5 minutes. Just steep it. That's the best way to consume. You don't want to boil your tea because you don't want to boil your loose leaf tea because now you're cooking the medicinal properties out of it. Right. You're burning, you're killing all the nutrients. Like, all right, this ain't gonna do nothing.
That is really, really important. I hope y'all are listening. You can pause and run that back so that you are definitely paying attention to that, because that's really, really important information. And that's a perfect segue to get back to the reality of it, because we've talked about this, I know that I can ask about not just the immediate, because your lady was able to get you to the hospital, you were able to get immediate treatment, and you began the process of healing. But because we are who we are, and we talk about practices, right? Same way we talk about practices with tea, we go talk about practices in life. You were sort of tuned into this notion of, I gotta hustle, I gotta do all these things to get my life right, and you ended up having a setback.
Now check this out. My aunt's a herbalist. You know what I'm saying? She works with Dr. Ayana out of New York. So she cured my uncle of colon cancer and da-da-da-da-da. So she gave me all these herbs. She helped me. So my recovery was miraculous, because of her and my mom. But me, my mentality was still hustle. I had things on the board still that I set up before my aneurysm. So then I have an album called Dreams Don't Chase Themselves. I didn't know you're not supposed to be chasing your dreams in the first place. You know what I'm saying? We run circles around people if we just stand still. Everything we already have is what we need. So I didn't get that. So the aneurysm slowed me down, and then I started speeding back up. I sped myself back up.
You were conditioned to do that.
Right. It's slave condition. it's like a slave condition. Anyway, chasing the money, chase. Paper chase. You know what I'm saying? Dreams don't chase themselves. You know, you think it's all about anyway. So I did that, and I had a few setbacks. It wasn't just one. I had a few setbacks. I dealt with
Was it fatigue?
Yeah, it was.
Headaches.
Man, I was down.
I remember.
That's when I first went to you.
That's when you first came in.
Yeah, when I first came to
Headaches galore.
Yeah, man, I was laying down. I would
wake up. And we also do. We need to clarify, because aneurysms don't have to happen just in the brain. You had a brain aneurysm. So it's important for people to understand, and maybe we should define that, right? An aneurysm, if I understand it correctly, is that you have a blood vessel that has swelled to the point of exploding.
That's called a hemorrhage.
Yep.
Okay. So if it does not break all the way, it's just the aneurysm is the swelling. Okay. You had that in your brain. And so there are probably is fatigue something that you can expect to experience after you've had a brain aneurysm?
Yeah, that's the symptoms. That's
okay. And so if you immediately start doing too much, then it might even be difficult for you to recognize that you are in that space of moving backwards instead of forwards.
Yo, back then I didn't know.
Right. That's what I'm
Vision.
saying.
Yeah, vision, balance, vertigo symptoms, all kinds of symptoms. I was affected. Like, it just slowed me down.
Yeah.
It slowed, which is good, because I needed to slow down. I needed to see who was cracking the whip on me. Like just depended on me to do all the work. I got to see those people and get rid of those people, or they just fell off because I couldn't. The horse was down, what I mean. So I got to see a lot. I got to slow down. I got to see a lot. I got to see myself. But first of all, I got to see myself. I got to see if anger issues, which I didn't know were anger issues. I got to see my discipline in my diet, my discipline in not giving out too much of myself. You know what I'm saying? If anybody asks, I would just jump up and do it without even thinking about time for myself or me. I would always do that. It kind of got me in this mode of my purpose.
Right.
And my purpose first is you, me, myself, and I first. You can't help nobody unless you're secure.
I want you to pause, and I want you to say that again for the people in the back, wherever the back may be as they listen to this episode, because that is incredibly important. So
it's you're here now. Slow it down and put it all together. No anger, no fear. Do you have a purpose now? Which is 3 is the magic number. Me, myself, and I. So then it's usually 2 other people, main people. That's right there. You in the middle. Then these 2 other people, and then you have, everything else. And that's how my priorities were recognized.
Right.
Through the aneurysm.
And so if I remember part of this story correctly, in one of what I guess you would call one of the major signals, slight setbacks in your recovery, you were on stage, were you not?
Oh shit! Yeah.
So talk to about again, you were in the studio when you had the first major episode that led to that, and then you had a setback on stage.
Yeah, it was like I was still recovering. Okay, so I'm still recovering. We're on the road. I still had this tour set up. So I went on. I still took the shows. I was super skinny. I lost mad weight.
And how long was this after?
Dude, I went right back to work. As soon as I got back to Philly, it was crazy, yo. I went right. People was like, yo, he's on stage. And it was in like Baltimore. It was in Baltimore at a college. And, to travel, I would have headaches on the train. I would get headaches still. So me traveling down there, I was already shaky. So I slept backstage before the show. I got on stage. And I didn't black out, like pass out. I had vertigo. Mm-hmm. It would hit me like a wave, and I was just standing on. It was crazy, man. And then one time it was in Johnny Popcorn rehearsal around the same time too. As soon as we started, the drummer said, da 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 da, hit the snare, a big white light flashed, and I just was sitting there crying. I didn't get the message early enough, so it had to keep reminding me and knocking me down. I don't think I was supposed to continue with the band. I wasn't supposed to continue with none of that. Be Society, any of that. Disrespect the mind and the body will suffer. Disrespect the body and the mind will suffer. As above, so below.
Yeah. And
I wasn't focused on myself. I was still giving out. And
can I just touch on that point real quick?
Yes.
See, in the holistic world, it's always spirit, mind, body, just in that order.
Mind, body.
Spirit gets the mind right, mind gets the body right.
Buckshot from Black Moon.
Black Moon.
Said mind makes the body, body makes the mind crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, just as, naturally, just as people, we want to go straight to the body.
Right.
You're like, all right, I got something going on, let's just go straight to the body. Right. And it's like, well, you might want to get the other things in order first, because it's going to require some type of discipline to get to where you're trying to be.
Discipline is our problem, nothing else.
But even in that, we have to still understand that it's a crawl, walk, run process. It's not a thing where you go from like, all right, I got this going on, so I'm gonna take this over here and I'm gonna hit it hard and I'm just gonna do it 1,000. Hey, look, if you could do 1,000 miles an hour, go ahead. But if you're not that person, crawl, walk, run. Take your time till you get to the point where you are consistent. The main thing is you just want to get something in your system. But by learning how to get it in your system, just like how you learn how to eat and put a fork in your mouth, right? Same thing with taking certain things to help prevent a lot of these issues today that we're talking about.
And I want to reiterate something that we've said on a previous episode, which is if you are fatigued, if you are in pain, it is important for you to identify the cause of that thing instead of immediately going to try and treat it.
Absolutely.
Because those things are happening to draw your attention to something. And so if our immediate thing is, well, I'm just going to take if I'm tired, then I'm just going to over caffeinate, or I'm just going to do whatever I need to do to stay up because I'm focused on this other thing. If you're in pain, if you're immediately taking a painkiller to numb yourself, then you're not
dealing with
you're not tied into what was causing it and what further damage it can be doing.
Right.
So we've got to take the time. That spirit thing, spirit has to figure out where the issue is so that you can then pull the other systems together to treat the thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
You
ever heard of people say something? They say, you got to become a part of your prayer. So here you are praying for something. You like, all right, I need this job, for example, right? Or better yet, I don't feel good. But right now we're in a herb store. You go pray about the situation.
It's right there.
but it's right in front of your face. Right. Or you got to become a part of your prayer is the point I'm trying to make.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you could ask for things. You could pray about stuff all you want to.
Right.
That's the spiritual part of it. But then becoming a part of it is where everything else falls into line.
Yeah. Where do you work
fit? With
the higher power in order to make things better?
You can't be asking for a job and you don't put a resume out.
Right.
Yep.
See what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's going to take a little bit of giving and receiving.
Take one step towards God.
Exactly.
Take 2 steps towards you.
Exactly. But yes, prevention is the bigger part of it. Prevention, like you said, identifying what those things are. You talked about fatigue. Okay, well, 2 of the biggest things that where fatigue comes from are, like we were just talking about, a few moments ago before the show started, misalignments in the spine, mainly in the cervical area.
This was our conversation,
right?
A few.
Causes fatigue.
Right.
Also, too, liver congestion also causes fatigue. Right. On that right side, in the front of your little tummy, and on that right side, your abs, right there. That's your liver.
Yeah.
And the liver is your battery source.
I thought the kidneys were. So the liver
is
is?
the liver.
Oh,
See,
wow.
the liver is the battery source, but the liver is also the organ of the emotions, right? Because the liver and the brain at one point in time was connected. See, when you was in your mother's womb, you were in the fetal position and you blossomed like a flower. So everything up here was connected to everything down here.
Oh.
That's why your brain looks like your what? Small intestines.
Sure.
No, I mean, but no, I mean, because it's deep, as we sit here and contemplate.
The cervical.
Yes.
Yes. So, and also the cervical, which runs from the top of the head down to the thyroid area. That's where your cervical is. But it's in your back. It's in the back, right? The spine area, right behind the head. But yeah, that would control things like high blood pressure. Yep, high blood pressure, which would cause what? Clots.
Clots, yeah.
Or aneurysms or hemorrhaging or things like that.
Right.
Also, too, will cause vertigo issues, right? Off balance. Oh, man, I'm dizzy, right? Also, too, things like sinuses, vision problems. But as I stated, high blood pressure issues. Also, what's called small fiber neuropathy. That's also caused by misalignments in your cervical, which is a tingling sensation in the fingertips. Right. Sometimes you might feel a pain run down your shoulder, your arm,
to your fingertips,
all the way down to your fingertips, and you feel that little tingle. Yeah, that's usually circulation issues. So yeah, a lot can be caused by having misalignments in the spine. Aneurysms being one of them.
Yeah.
Also, too, when you talked about fatigue, and we were talking about the liver also can cause fatigue whenever it's congested. Prime example, we from
What
Philly.
causes the? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We from Philly, right? What do we eat here in Philly more than anything? Or we've grown up eating here. Cheesesteaks galore. What happens after you eat a cheesesteak? You ready to what? Tired, right?
Itis, yes.
But we call it the itis, but that's really the liver working. The liver takes 48 hours to break beef down. That's why a lot of times you'll hear people say leave beef alone. It's not because it's just bad. It's because the liver's like, yo, I'm working here. I'm gonna tire you down. Eat that cheesesteak and see if you don't go to sleep right afterwards. Right. So yeah, that's what happens. But when we decongest the liver, that's where the energy comes from. We gotta decongest it. So to do that, just something simple that we could do. That would be, cut a slice of organic number 9 lime or lemon, just a slice. Squeeze it into the drink, into the water, and that would actually help with decongesting that liver and giving you that quick energy that's needed.
Too, I think this is where, and people know that genealogy is my soapbox, but I think it is incredibly important for people who think that they aren't interested in family history to research what they can and know what their direct line ancestors were dealing with health-wise. Right. There are companies that charge big money for you to get all these tests so that you can have your own genetic information and tie it in that way. But it could be as simple as if your family, like mine, kept not just the obituaries, but the death certificates. So you can see cause of death. You can see what factors contributed to whatever it was that took your ancestors out of here, because we say all the time that heart disease is hereditary, that liver disease tends to run in families, right? So it's not just that we're built this way, it's that we have similar practices.
There it is. You hit it. Ooh.
So is it practice? So is it practice or genetics?
It's a combination of both.
It's a combination of both. Okay. See, here's the deal. This is what you're talking about. Say Big Mama 60 years ago made her sweet potato pie a special type of way. She liked to put all the white sugar in it, right? And everybody else in the family may have grown up that way, like, all right, you know what, I'm going to put some of this white sugar in the sweet potato pie because that's the way Big Mama used to make it, right? And what happens is we carry that on for years and years and years, those traditions, not realizing that we're actually harming ourselves by doing this. We'd be like, yeah, well, my uncle, he died from a heart attack, and my grandpa, he died from a heart attack, and my thing is, all right, but what was everybody eating? Right? Because 9 times out of 10, we were probably doing the same things as family, being raised a certain way,
and
consuming certain things.
People were perished from a lack of knowledge.
And
so that breaking generational curses.
Yeah,
it's breaking generational.
And it's not my, I laugh about this now, but it really was a moment, right? Because we're recording this during the holidays, ladies and gentlemen, and so this becomes one of those things where a lot of people, they get stressed out around the holidays, right? Because they're trying to change their practices in ways that are more healthful, and some of our relatives don't take that well, right? Because these are the things that have been passed down. Right. When I stopped eating pork, my father had a fit. Because, and listen, I never digested it well. Right? Really? So it wasn't a spiritual thing. It was for me, I just never digested it well. Some people go over the moon with bacon, never me. It's never me. And so I eliminated it.
That crispy,
right?
Crunchy, soft in the middle.
Don't get into that down south, baby.
Too salty, man. It was just, so it was never my thing. Right. But the first holiday I came home after I gave up pork, my father was so upset because to him, that was an indictment of how he raised me. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When that was not at all in my thought process about why I made that decision. But for him, if I'm now saying that I'm not eating this thing because it is not good for me, because it does not make me feel good, whatever this thing was, for him it was like, well, the whole time you were under my roof, this was a
now
thing.
It ain't good enough for you.
Right. And so that can be, that kind of stuff, the holidays affect different people different ways. And I know I'm not the only person who went through something like that. So we talk about trying to reform our practices. So it also is really important for us to have the fortitude to have some real honest conversations with our families about changes we might be making and why we're making the decision for ourselves. It's not to necessarily get everybody on the same bandwagon.
Sometimes you can't even have a conversation.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes you can, sometimes some people you
can't.
Right.
It's difficult, and we're talking now about the decisions to rest, the decisions where you fall back, whatever. Not everybody's going to take this up on their shoulders and march through the family gatherings with it, right? But there's a level where you've got to say, I've got to stick to this. And you do that, you ask a lot of questions too, because my stepmother, so not that first year, it might have been the third year, coming back home for the holidays, she cooked the green beans with bacon fat. To her, that wasn't pork. You know what I mean?
Right.
So again, it's got to be if you are reforming your practices, then you've got to continue to ask the questions. You've got to continue to assert the things, because otherwise, and for me, thankfully, my body, when I stopped eating pork, I stopped being able to digest it. So if I get anything that's got pork in it, it comes right back up.
Right. Got it.
But I didn't mean to offend her when after I had the beans, I had to go run into the bathroom. But my body was like, nope.
Yep. Your body knows.
Yeah.
We gotta remember that.
Throw up.
Right.
You see, we gotta remember that we are created by a genius. Ain't that something?
Yes.
See, when your body recognizes it's not supposed to have something, it rejects it. Body is trying to correct itself. And we talked about rest. The body corrects itself when we're asleep.
Yes.
That's why you gotta sleep. The more you sleep, the more your body has a chance of healing itself. Right? Just like we talked about when you go for surgery and they put you down, and then all of a sudden, you wake up and you're just like, wow, I feel better again. Well, they get that practice from somewhere because your body automatically does it.
Yeah. Your body needs to do it in order to restore itself, but also to speed up the healing process. So we get in this grind, as you were talking about, that this was your practice because you were trying to acquire the things that meant success to you. And I think we understand now that it didn't take the first time, right?
Yeah.
You're adopting the practices that have kept you on the path to healing.
That Nas said sleep is the cousin of death, and I said sleep is the fountain of youth. And you said ain't no absolutes. You know what I'm saying? It's like the balance. You know what I'm saying? When do you hustle? When do you rest?
Right.
Sleep is the fountain of youth. Like that's when you regenerate yourself. So there's a Buddhist practice of breathing. Like one nostril's always dominant, one nostril's always you know that practice.
Yep.
And then if the right nostril's breathing loose, that means that's when you're supposed to work. That's when you're supposed to work and do activities. And when the left is, you're supposed to drink water, meditate, and read or something like that. It has a passage clears, a practice for nasal passage clearance. You know. So I've been trying to do that too.
Nice.
And it's been working. And all that. I learned a discipline. On top of that, the situation my brother slowed me.
Tell the listeners what that means.
Okay, so my brother has cerebral palsy. During the pandemic, they couldn't take care of my brother. The nurses got their stimulus checks. They got, they just wasn't showing up. They were scared of COVID, and he was just left there. And on top of that, he had a bed sore. So I left Philly to go to Delaware, and I was traveling back and forth, and to take the pressure off my mom. So then I ended up moving to Delaware from everything the studio, the Johnny Pop Beat Society, and everything like that. Wow. And then my brother has this theory called 5 miles per hour because that's how fast his wheelchair goes. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, my whole life been like 5 miles an hour because he watches everybody around him move so fast. You know, so this goes back to me and moving so fast. And so while I'm there taking care of him, depressed, you know, because I'm so everything's gone.
I was gonna say, plus the whole world is shut down at this
the whole
point.
world
Like
is shut down.
There's nowhere for you to go.
Yeah, man. Right. So I'm there taking care of him. We brothers. We arguing. I could be taking care of him. We arguing, and I still gotta be there, going 5 miles per hour. Right. So this was like a dojo. You know what I mean? And in that process, we just started becoming like when we were kids again. And that was like the person that taught me how to make music and gel together just through hip hop and through music. So he taught me how to make beats. He taught me how to rap. He taught me how to break dance. You know what I'm saying? He's in a wheelchair. So it brought me right where I was supposed to be in the dojo for discipline that I needed. And compassion too, and giving my energy to the right people. Yeah, you know.
Sometimes things have to happen for us to slow down to see things holistically in its entirety. Yeah. Right. I get calls from patients often where they're like, "I was in a car accident," and the first thing that comes to my mind is, they're like, "I don't know why this happened," or "I got into an accident this week, and then 3 weeks later I got into another accident." And I'll be thinking to myself, like, is this the creator's way of trying to slow your ass down and say, look, I know you got something that looks really important, but it ain't more important than your health. Right. Health is wealth. I don't care what you're trying to do. I don't care if you're trying to produce music. I don't care if you're trying to sing. I don't care if you're trying to DJ and color the world. I don't care what you're trying to do. And I told my daughter this when she came to the office. She said, I said, baby, look, trust me when I tell you, take this stuff here, right? And your health is number one, and nothing else is going to come before your health because you won't be able to do nothing you're thinking about. That's right. And she's like, looking at me like she's 19. You know, it's kind of hard to have that conversation when we live in a world where so much of the other stuff is sugars and you know, all kinds of other things are being pushed on us. Right. You know? Right. But the slowdown is important, but also the gaining perspective, because I think the beautiful thing about what you shared in terms of the redeveloping your relationship with your brother is that while you were up and out and doing all the things, it was from
you were building on the foundation that he
Right.
helped you create
Right.
in the culture, in your appreciation
And I
for
kinda
everything
forgot
that you were doing.
I did literally actually kind of forgot that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then I got reminded, like hardcore reminded.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like I'm here because of, you know, like mainly because of this dude, like put me on this path. Even like, you know, he's a Rasta. You know, so I was raised around a bunch of rosters. He hung around a bunch of rosters, like real rosters, like Bob Marley, you know, from Delaware. So
You're right.
his friends.
Yeah.
Like my brother was friends with his friend, Brother Casa, and that was his housemate, dude with long locks, old man with long locks down to his calf. You know what I'm saying? So I came up with them and sitting in the house, them reading books, a whole bunch of rosters reading them. So I was brought up in that culture. I was brought up in Islam culture, but my brother with the Rastafarianism, you know, like that was my upbringing also because of him. And so it brought me right back to it.
Yeah.
You know?
And that I know I'm on a soapbox about genealogy, but I think that's really important because, you know, we have these esoteric conversations in the community about nature versus nurture. You know, what you were born with and those things that you got from the people that raised you.
Right.
But there's clearly something more than just nurture when it comes to these huge families and everybody sings. You know, the idea that some of these things are seeded in you already from the time of birth, and it's how you choose to develop those gifts and put them into practice. And I think it's beautiful that through a time where it was hard on everybody, but particularly on you, right? In the midst of recovery, in the midst of the world trying to be in recovery, you had an opportunity to tap back into those foundational things in your life.
Yeah, man. Yep. And that was it. But then a lot of times you don't even realize that it's not just culture, but it's also habits. You know, breaking habits that cause you harm. You know, breaking habits that cause you harm, breaking traits, breaking generational dysfunctions. You know what I'm saying? Health, diet, all the whole everything. You know, and that's what it brought me down to because I had to like move back with family, and I got to see family. You know how sometimes you go back home and you know you look at your parents. You're like, damn, I do that. My lady one time, we during the whole pandemic, my pops, he was in the house and he was snapping at something. We just went to visit him and I was just staring at him. When we left, my lady was laughing so hard. I was like, what you laughing at? She was like, you saw yourself, didn't you? I was like, yo. I was like, this shit was crazy. I was like looking at him like,
yep.
It was like, I was like, it's not that deep, homie.
Look, I am very much, everybody's like, you are your mother's twin. On the outside, I look just like my mother.
Right.
On the inside, I got a lot of my daddy. And I've had to
recognize first.
Yeah, figure out how to manage that. Like recognize that it's there.
Yep.
But also there are traits that will work different in his body, in his person, in his lifetime than they work for me in the now. And so it's not that, oh, it's so terrible. No. It is what it is. But how you consciously deal with those things that you are prone to is really important for your mental and emotional health as well as the physical health.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So here we are now, and you are roughly about 5
52.
years. No, I wasn't asking your age. Thank you for that, though. But no, I mean, you're about 5 years into your recovery from that first big incident.
2016.
Oh, wow, that was the first?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's, I mean, so we're coming up on major milestones.
Still side effects from it, and then recently, Dre, I hit Dre up. Dre always, we talk anyway, so I always ask him for advice. I'm like, yo, man, I'm having headaches. I'm this and this, and he recently told me to he's like, yo, that doesn't sound like diet. You're doing everything right. I was doing red onion tea and celery and everything I've been doing to keep my energy up.
Right.
And he's like, dude, this sounds like a spinal injury and a misalignment. And I did get in an accident like a few months back, and I was like, damn, I didn't complete therapy and whatever because I felt good,
Wait, let's pause.
3 months later,
but let's pause because again, we need you. We're thankful that you are sharing your story so that other people out here can recognize that in themselves.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of not necessarily completing the course of what has been recommended to you is a bad habit that is not just you. A lot of us have struggled with that, right? The whole point of them saying you need this thing or these things for this amount of time is so that you get to the other end of that arc so that they have a chance to do what the full course of the thing is. Right. And you started feeling better and thought, oh, well, I'm done.
Yep.
When the experts were telling you differently.
Right.
So, Mr. Holistic Health Practitioner.
Come on, talk to me.
Let's talk about that, right?
Yes.
Because the same way that you gave us clear instructions about a bark needs to be boiled and a tea needs to be steeped.
Yes.
When you give people health recommendations of things they should do, there's a reason why it's a particular milligram, it's a particular kind of herb, it's a particular thing that they should be doing until they come see you again for you to reassess. Right? Or the importance of assessment, first of all.
This is all a part of the whole crawl, walk, run theory.
Okay.
Right? Because each assessment I go into the assessment with the understanding that, all right, this may take this person, this may take this person a little bit longer. Or this person here may not take as long, right? But the idea is just like riding a bike. Just got to try it. And you got to keep going till eventually it becomes a habit. Now when you get sick, you know what to turn to. You know what to go to. Okay, I know I need this. I know I need that. So yeah, and honestly speaking, these are things that we should have been learning in first grade. And it's unfortunate that a lot of us are getting it now. But as long as we get it, that's the point.
But this is, and I'm glad that you said that too, because there are a lot of people who since our election have been depressed, honestly. I mean, it's not just that they're disappointed. They're depressed about what they foresee as our future here in America. And we've got...
God is the greatest of all planners.
Absolutely.
So don't be depressed.
I feel like if we're going to do work, right, knowing that we are going to face heavy opposition in trying to holistically bring our community and our people together, then do the work that's going to be of maximum benefit. The same way that, and I'm so glad that you were honest about this idea of the pandemic. Because collectively, if none of us can go anywhere, if none of us can have the habits that we had before the world shut down, we were supposed to take that time to reassess, to reconfigure, and come out of that thing different. I would say maybe 9 out of 10 people didn't change.
I was so happy. I was like, this is the Great Awakening, and everybody's going to change. Everybody's going to sit with themselves. And I thought, and then my friend, my sister, my guy, I asked everybody, I said, how many people do you think changed? I said, is it still just 5% of us? Like this? She was like, yes, it's still just 5% of us.
It's scary how little
no students changed.
How little changed on a global level.
Right.
But I still think the seed was planted.
Because I think now it's about to turn. But stars are aligning like January 25th. All the planets align again, just like
I have to look that up.
December 25th 2018.
Oh, the planets are going to be in the same place? Oh,
that's when the planets align. But the planets in the same position on January 25th. And it's going to be that.
Well, I will remain hopeful that is sort of the next part of this cycle.
In the last, let's say, 5 years, have you ever heard this many people talking about things like sea moss?
Nope.
No.
Soursop.
So it is raising up.
I've been here 40-something years. I ain't never heard so many people talking about this and that. Oh, you can take this. You can take bladderwrack, ashwagandha. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm looking like, how you know about that? And I'm saying that to say that the information is out there. And like you were saying, I think the seed has been planted. And people are starting to wake up to, you know what? I've been taking these pills forever. I've been doing this, that, and the third. I still got this over here, or it's taking me forever to, or better yet, I'm not being told the root cause of my problem and how to get rid of it. I'm given what I need to relieve and treat myself,
but not to cure it.
I'm gonna say this much: allopathic medicine does have a tremendous benefit in our society. Why? Because they spend thousands of dollars on equipment.
Yep.
And we can find out a lot of what's going on through those tests. Now, if they recommend you something based upon what it is that they saw in the test result, then yes, you have the option of making a decision as to whether I want to go this allopathic route, or would I take a more homeopathic route, or would I do a more naturopathic route? Because there is a difference between all three.
Yes.
Of course, naturopathic is the ultimate holistic way of going about things naturally. But I will say that allopathic medicine, before we jump on not jump in that sense, but that's just the way of my term.
I also, and anybody who's heard me talk about anything is that diagnosis is absolutely top of the pyramid. You gotta know what you're dealing with before you can decide how you want to reverse it.
Absolutely.
Do your best to reverse it.
Absolutely. See, the body works in a systematic form. It's not like, all right, I got all these problems going on at the same time. It's like, no, one problem started here, that caused another problem. All right, that problem here caused this problem. All right, this problem over here, and it just continues to go around, round, round.
Right.
And what we got to do is we got to backtrack. We got to get right back. Just backtrack till you get to the problem.
Right. To the source.
To the source.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing with me. And that everything is gotta be, if I'm not getting it from the source, if it's information, I don't care what it is.
Right.
Food, I don't care what it is, then it's not real.
Right.
I gotta question it.
Yeah. Right. How many paths, how many methods, how many everything did this pass through till it got to me?
And I'm a Virgo. So everything gotta be boom, 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 down the line. All right, that makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So yes, prevention, health prevention, is the key before we start tapping into, the pills and the allopathic treatments and all that. No, how about you just start with your food first. There are some things out here that you enjoy that may not be good that you can find a healthier version of, and it tastes the same.
Yeah.
Start with the water. Bottle at the source water only. No purified, no filtered, no distilled, and no reverse osmosis. Right. But bottle at the source, that's where they tap beneath spring to get that water. And the reason why I say that is because bottle at the source water is what's going to activate the herb. Now, the amount of water is what pushes the herb to where it needs to go in the body. So the rule of thumb is half the body weight in ounces, right, daily. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you should be drinking 50 ounces of water, right? So when it comes to rest, there's something very important that we must pay attention to, and it's called the circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm are cycles, and we all have them, right? And there are certain times as to when we are supposed to eat and drink solid foods. The reason why I say that is because it does play a part and it affects our sleep. You see, the hours for water consumption are from 4 a.m. until 7 p.m.
Okay.
So that's for water consumption. 4 a.m. until 7 p.m. Do you got to get up at 4? No. But if you're up at that time, you can start drinking beverages.
Okay.
All right. Now, the hours for solid foods are from 12 noon until 7 p.m. 12 noon until 7. Now, some people probably listening right now, and they're like, well, Dad, I like my potatoes, my bacon, my toast, my pancakes. I like that first thing in the morning. What can I eat, Dre? You telling me I can't eat? Fruit. Fruit is best in the morning. Why? Because fruit is quick energy. It burns fast. Right. Vegetables burn slower, so they stabilize. So you want that in the afternoons, evenings. Never mix the two together. That's the biggest mistake I see when people are juicing.
How far apart, since you're not supposed to eat them together?
I would probably say give it about a good hour or two before you do that. But if you have your fruits in the morning, do them in the morning. Make sure you have your vegetables first in the afternoons and or evenings. Now, by mixing the two together, remember, one burns fast, one burns slow. So when the body consumes it, you don't know if you want to chill, run. Right. You thinking about stuff from 20 years ago, like, man, that pissed me off. And then all of a sudden you calm. It's like, you're imbalanced, right? And the idea is to be balanced.
Right.
That's the idea.
Right.
So now what happens is after 7 o'clock, you're like, all right, well, what happens after 7? The body shuts down. The body is closed at 7 o'clock. Body is saying, all right, Stephen Hez, we got to break down all of the nutrients, everything you've been eating all day long. Right. We got to break this stuff down. But here's the problem. I want something after 7 o'clock. I want something at 9 or 10. So body says, all right, I got more work to do, right? I got to open back up. I got more work to do now. You want to eat after 7, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep you up late at night. Those are the people that, I can't sleep at night. I'm going to bed 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because you eating after 7. That you're eating out of cycle. That disrupts what's called REM sleep, random eye movement. You ever seen people sleeping like this with their eyes all in the back of their head? They looking crazy, looking like something out of a horror movie or something like that. You're like, why they sleep with their eyes open like that? Well, what that means is that person is in a state of paralysis. They're in a deep sleep. So what that means is that when they're in a deep sleep like that, you need to rest because that's when the body is healing itself. So when you're eating out of cycle, it disrupts that REM sleep. Or the body will say, you know what? I'll let you go to sleep, but I'm going to wake your butt up at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom. Because we're eating and drinking out of cycle. When we drink something, the body should be eliminating that beverage an hour and a half to 2 hours after you consume it. So if you drink something at 11 o'clock at night, you got to expect to be eliminating that, or you should be between 12:30 and 1. Some people are going to the bathroom a little earlier. That's usually a sign of a urinary tract infection. And that's coming from holding the urine. They don't come from, my hygiene is bad. No, it comes from holding the urine. See, when you're sleeping at night, and you know this, you're a guy. We drink something late. Some of us might not get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom. We'll hold it, sleep, and don't even realize it. And then wake up the next morning like, yo, I gotta go, right? But when you gotta go like that, especially with us men, what tends to happen is we create that heat down in that lower burner when we hold it like that. And that heat, when that heat is present, that now disrupts the lining of the bladder. Now you can't stop going to the bathroom, frequent urination. So that's UTI. So there's certain things that you could do to treat that. Not to diagnose, treat, cure, nor prevent disease, simply food for the soul. That's my disclaimer. But there's things like golden seal root that you could take for something like that. Golden seal root is a natural antibiotic. However, it's the only herb that you'll ever hear me recommend with the protocol. And that protocol is 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 weeks back on, quit it for a month. Right. And if you need to repeat the cycle, do it. But we call it the 2-1-2 principle. 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 weeks back on, quit for a month, right? Then repeat.
Yeah.
Golden seal root, like I said, is a natural antibiotic. It's great for things like infections. Also great for things like cleansing all of the organs. Also is a tremendous blood cleanser. Also is anti-inflammatory. Makes your hair and nails strong. So ladies, yeah, do that. But back to our original point. When we start talking about rest and things like that, we have to understand the importance of the circadian rhythm. Because if we don't eat within the cycle time frame that we should be, then what's going to happen is we're either going to be up late at night not getting any rest, or we're going to be unfortunately getting up and down and balance, going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, all of these things. So I just wanted to put a long touch point.
No, I appreciate that, and I guess we can close out with Hez coming back to you and your journey.
Yeah, sure.
What are the, I guess, top priorities now that you're keeping like in front of you about how to keep your recovery consistent?
Like, what are you doing?
To keep my recovery consistent, sleeping, getting rest, discipline with water, my hydration, my time management, prioritizing. Right now, priority is my brother, me, myself, my lady, my brother, and colors. Yeah.
And explain to people what colors is.
Colors is a Hezekiah Colors approaches today's health and wellness as a multi-generational intersection of the arts, exhibiting the importance of color, sound, culture, and movement, designed to provoke compassion for the unhealthy to the, I like to call them the handy-capable community, and the capable community of all ages. Family members of all ages.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I know that this is a passion project of yours. It is very much in alignment with what we're doing with Sick With It.
Yeah, man, right on.
And so we want to make sure that as you present other opportunities for people to come in person to experience that and everything, that we stay connected and make sure that our audience is aware of everything that you're doing with that project.
Please, we're right on time, because there's a panel, of course. Dre's already involved, and Steph, and we're already involved with each other. So, definitely will.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, wellness is not an individual thing ever. Wellness is a community concern. And so however we can continue to feed each other's passions for getting us better and keeping us connected, that is always a positive thing. But for anybody who is struggling with trying to get your loved ones to understand that you are on a wellness journey, I want you to hear what Hezekiah offered, that you got to take care of yourself first. And you can lead by example. Move down your path of being your greatest self and let other people around you see the progress you're making and be more curious about what you are doing to get your results. But sometimes you can't bring the whole family along with you on your journey. You got to take your first steps and then let other people come along as they are ready. But we wish you the best on your wellness journey for sure. Sick With It is here to be a mode of communication, to share this information, get your friends and loved ones to listen to our episodes so they can learn a little something, and we can expand this conversation about bringing more health and wellness to our creative community and to our Black folks specifically, because we need it. The Sick With It podcast is a Soul Sanctuary media production. For more information on our health and wellness initiative, to access the wellness providers in our digital resource guide, or to make a donation, visit us at sickwithit.net. That's sick, W-I-T, it.net. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, share, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, that's funky. That's sick. Now everybody throw it up. Sick. And now they screaming, turn it up. So I